everybody. It's 6:31 by my computer. Tonight is our regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. It's Tuesday, December 4th, 2018. And join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Randy, please.
Trustee Marks is absent and excused this evening. Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk retires here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, Legal Counsel Roger Zappa, and Superintendent of Public Works Kirk Page is here. And no committee members present.
Next up is public comment. If anybody would like to share a thought or an idea with the board, name and address, please.
Good evening. I think you all know me, but for the record, Shayna Thornton, Michigan AFSCME Council 25, representing the employees here, Local 1852 AFSCME. We're here tonight to address any questions or concerns regarding the budget, specifically related to employee health insurance. We wanted to make sure that there were no concerns or questions left unanswered. If necessary, we'll be very happy to answer any of those questions and speak to the issue under the agenda topic. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Anybody else wish to address the board? Okay. Any board comment with anything Shanna said for right now? Okay. And then we need approval for the consent agenda, which tonight includes the approval of regular meeting minutes of November 20th and work session minutes with MTBA and the Township Board from November 20th. Bills payable in the amount of $170,374.48. We do have a budget amendment tonight, 2018-013, that Randy will read later. Receive committee and other reports, including accident funds, workers' compensation dividend, road committee meeting agenda for December 4th, which was tonight, Planning Commission minutes of October 24th, Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority Board agenda for November 28th, and the minutes of their October 24th meeting, Recreation Committee draft minutes of November 20th, and I had no report tonight. Fortunately, it's been nice and quiet. So we'll need a roll call on this too, whoever approves it.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, and
Wanna
the-
read the-
yeah, the highlight of the budget amendment of 2018-13 is, and it'll be in the minutes as always, so if you want to look at it, it's there. But authorization is requested to adjust revenues and expenditures in the general fund. Revenue increases including interest and transfer in from the liquor law enforcement fund, offset by decreases in taxes, community center rentals, and cable TV franchise fees. Excuse me. The year-end vacation payouts and health insurance opt-outs are reflected in the increase for the manager and clerk departments. The election increase is for supplies and election inspectors. The planning increase is for hospitalization and attorney fees, offset by lower appointed officials and salaries. Hospitalization was chosen instead of an opt-out. The General Services Administration is for lower than estimated tax tribunal and computer services cost, offset by vacation payout. The liquor law enforcement revenue and corresponding transfer to the general fund is 26% over what is originally budgeted.
Thank you.
And roll call vote is Clerk Rattari, yes. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Thank you. And we just need approval of the remainder of the agenda unless someone has any changes.
So move.
Support.
support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Well, we have a couple public hearings tonight with the budget. Do you want to preface that, Randy, or just
No,
say?
basically,
say aye?
it has been advertised. The process is that you would open the individual public hearings. There are two. One is for the consideration of the 2019 budget, and the second is for the 2019 truth and taxation, which is your tax levy. You saw this earlier in the year. We said we'd be coming back to you in the budget process for formal adoption. That is the levy that you intend to put in place for 2019. There are two separate public hearings and need two separate actions. So you would simply open the public hearing, take public comment, close public hearing, and then the board would consider as part of the budget adoption later in the agenda.
Okay. It's 6:37. I will open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2019 budget. If we have any public that would like to comment on what it contains. I will ask a second time if there's any public comment for the fiscal 2019 budget. And a third time for the fiscal 2019 budget. No comments. So we can close at 6:38 PM. Do we need a roll call for this?
It's just the public hearings,
But I mean, for the motion, I was asking ahead of time, because we have to do these separately, right?
yeah, but actually the motion's later.
Okay. Then I can open the 2019 fiscal year truth and taxation tax levy public hearing, 6:38. And ask if there are any comments from the public. And I will ask a second time for the fiscal 2019 truth and taxation tax levy. And a third time for the public. 2019 truth and taxation tax levy. Any comments? Hearing no comments, it's 6:39. We will close the public hearing. We have no board education or privilege comment for tonight. Community linkage. Any board member comment regarding what we're hearing from the public or external environment, however? Pete?
I got a resident complaining about the plowing. They brought it up at the board, at the road committee tonight. They're peeling off the bib curb. They're coming too far over. They're taking the top of the bib curb off, throwing all the blacktop in his yard, and when he's using a snow blower, he's hitting his house and the cars and stuff like that, so. I just thought maybe Randy could talk to Iwaniki or something like that, or whatever. I don't know what the solution is, not to go so far over on the side of the road, but, you know.
Okay.
Surprised that was an issue that we raised early with the road commission with regard to the road curbing, and we were assured that because of their use of the laser device on the plows, that it would not be an issue. So I would suspect that our repair funds would not be doing any repair damage in the spring.
Do we have just one, is it one neighborhood, one street, Pete, that you're talking
Well,
about?
if you look around, you'll see them, the plow is going to the right a little bit, and over the top of the bib curb. You know, and you'll see that, and then that just peels it off.
I'll take
What
it up
Randy
with-
said, like last year, they peeled the corner where I lived, they
Yeah.
took the blacktop right out and they never replaced it all summer, so. That's why I just thought I'd bring it up. I told him I'd bring it up and we'd talk about it, and maybe comment to Iwaniki would help it.
I'll get in touch with the maintenance supervisor.
Okay, that'll be good. Thank you for that. Anybody else? I was just gonna say that Randy received an email from a resident today, and I just want to thank him for how he handled it. It went on and on and on, and the resident wasn't happy, and it wasn't anything that the township could do anything about. It was pretty much county issues and different circumstances, but I want to thank him for the way he handled it. Very professionally, gave the details. I don't know that we won't hear from the resident again, but there's really nothing we can do for him. It's hard to say that, but it's not township stuff, so I just wanted to let you know. He's earning his pay over there. And I want to remind you that the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority recycling meeting is Thursday this week. That's December 6th at 7. And it is in the Ishpeming Township Hall. And that's where they're going to talk about the single stream recycling and give a presentation. And in case you want to go, obviously we're not required to, but I'm going to try to get there. And we had another tax appeal come through in the last week or two, and I just kind of started thinking if somebody was paying $20,000 a year in taxes, which I'm thinking a small business, it would be equivalent to them only paying $4,000 is what these people are asking for a reduction. So how that affects us is pretty obvious. So instead of us getting a percentage of the 20,000, we'd get only a percentage of 4. That's quite an impact, so I just wanted to share that with you.
Are you able to let us know who that is?
Yeah, I can. Hey, Roger? Sure. Yeah, I didn't know when it became public. It's the mall property. It was a huge decrease. We made an offer, and they didn't like it. They wanted less. So, obviously, they're paying more than 20,000, but I just thought it's like 22% is all they want to pay. We have to pay 100, all of us. Okay, policy discussion, consideration, and development. Consider US 41 underpass resolution of authorization. I'm thinking this, we don't have Jason, right, or do we?
Again?
Was Jason gonna talk about this, or
Yeah,
just
Jason was
you?
gonna be here. I'm not sure what happened. I saw he did drive back. But basically, this is a repeat of what you had done at a prior meeting. Remember, there was a change in the language within the state in terms of how they were categorizing the application of the grants. It did not impact our match. This is a revision of that. They came back and revised it a second time. Again, it's on the state side. It does not impact our match. It's just how they're categorizing their grants for the tunnel project. So the request is for you to, again, adopt the attached resolution, which simply changes the state portions within the state portions. Their own budgets, does not change our match at all.
We don't need to read this
That's the
because it's
request.
part of the,
No, the only thing that really changed is that first paragraph on it, paragraph number 1, where they're identifying how they are separating the 2 state grants in terms of funding for the project in addition to our match.
so
So the overall total did not change.
you'd like that first paragraph to be part of the motion? Is that what you're saying?
The highlighted portion, yes.
Right, okay. Everybody have that? Does somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll support.
You want me to read it? Does it need to be? Okay. It's just splitting up the money. 1.3 million versus the 449,000. Resolution needs a roll call.
Okay, the roll call vote is trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes?
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay. Consider MDOT contract for Brickyard Roundabout irrigation.
Yes, this is some of the preliminary work that is going to be done with regard to the portions of the Brickyard Roundabout project that we are responsible for. If you'll recall, you previously had approved a motion to fund the 2 roundabouts for a total of $26,500 is the total for both roundabouts as our portion of the cost. In addition to that, we agreed that we would would be responsible for the vegetation in the center of the roundabouts. So that's what you have before you this evening, is the contract for the work to be done to place the irrigation equipment within the roundabout for us to connect to. That's a $7,000 charge. That would come out of the general fund.
And that's in addition to the 26.5.
The 26.5 is for the actual construction of the roundabouts, which is being funded by the DDA, and the 7,000 comes out of the general fund. So all that I would need is authorization for the approval from the board for the agreement and to authorize a signatory.
Is it always set up like that, Randy, that township or city or that have to take care of the
Yeah,
cost?
MDOT, the federal funds cannot be used for the irrigation. It's the same thing that happened in the city. In fact, it's the same company that did the work in the city for their roundabouts. The local unit is responsible for the irrigation system and for the vegetation.
I'll move to accept the agreement and authorize the supervisor to sign.
Support.
Okay, and this was a resolution, right, or let me go back?
It's a contract, it's not a resolution.
Okay, so it doesn't need to have
You will be seeing a series of these amendments coming as they get into the process to start construction in May.
a, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider enterprise funds CIP requests. We have two. We have a separate one for water and a separate one for wastewater outside of the budget.
Correct, and as you noted in my transmittal of the budget, the items are contained in the budget for reference only for the individuals that might be looking at the budget online. The approval action of the budget would not include these. The board had opted previously to separate these out for separate motion.
Okay, so we have water improvements. There's 4 items: motor control center, ATS with generator, PLC update upgrade, and 8-inch main and PRV on Brookton. Go ahead, Dave.
Can we consider them in one motion, the water fund and the wastewater together for the CIP approvals?
It doesn't matter to me. You were the one that had asked anyway to have these on here.
Okay,
Mark, do you have an issue with one or both?
okay. With the board's approval, then I'd make a motion to approve the following listed Public Works CIP requests with the manager's memorandum of November 28th attached as additional justification for the water fund, the motor control center upgrade, the ATS generator, the PLC update and upgrade, and wastewater fund, the ATS generator.
PLC on the water side. And on the wastewater side, just the generator?
Generator.
And you did have justification on there. Do you want to include that as part of your motion?
Yes, that we attached the manager's memorandum. That's the additional justification we had requested.
Okay. Were you gonna do something with?
We could do that as a separate motion.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the water and wastewater CIP requests are one motion. First one would be, the first part would be the motor control center, the ATS, and the PC. And then the wastewater is just the ATS generator. So this is what his motion is.
Support.
Ernie?
Yes, or I have a question.
Do you support? Okay.
Being, we're looking at 2 different generators for 2 different areas. Is it possible to go out on bids for this?
We will be out on bids.
We'll go out on bids. Okay, because you're talking 120,000 or more on something like.
We will always bid generators, because there are several different suppliers, several different locations they can come from, and, obviously, we're looking for a combination of purchase and installation.
Generator could come from somewhere else, insulation from somewhere else.
Possible.
Okay, Dave?
And if the board remembers this, the generator for the wastewater is the one that we elected at the last meeting to pay for it up front out of retained earnings instead of, amortizing it for 2 years?
Does that need to be in the motion?
Not to exceed 60,000.
I don't think so.
No. Well, it's included in the
budget,
motion
right?
that's on the table right now.
It's
But
in
it-
the minutes and in the discussion, so that should be.
That should come.
Well, and it's in the budget on,
Yeah.
for how it's been paid for.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any other questions? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And then you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I have a second motion I would appreciate if the board would entertain, and that motion is to not approve the following listed Public Works CIP request due to insufficient background information and justification. Under the Water Fund, it's the 8-inch main PRV for Brookton. Under the Wastewater Fund, it's the lift station odor control. The Grove Grandview Phase 1 low-pressure force main. The Grove Grandview Phase 2 low-pressure force main. The Grove Grandview Phase 3 low-pressure force main. And the sanitary collection main on Brookton.
You have support for that? I'll support it. Discussion, questions?
Are we looking for additional information before we move forward on this, then?
Yeah, and what this is just to put these to rest, that they're not approved because of the lack of justification. And my reasoning being is we've been going round and round about this for 4 or 5 meetings and recently, and actually the better part of a year without getting the justification and the information we've been looking for. So it's my intention to put them to rest and have them resubmitted in whole the next time they want to put them.
Right, and you will, I have been meeting with the Superintendent of Public Works, and you'll be seeing those for your 2020 capital improvement program with sufficient justification. Probably way more than sufficient.
Do any of those, we have to look at it sooner than 220?
No. No, they can, they're all projects, they're important projects, they're not critical projects from the standpoint that there's a failure, unless, the only one that might come back would be the low pressure in the Grandview area if they start to see septic failures. If. But otherwise, they can be postponed to the 2020 capital improvements program.
We don't have anybody requesting that now anyway, right?
I don't believe so.
Dave?
That was part of the discussion over the last couple of weeks, as we haven't established that there's any need for that, other than it was in the recommendations from the 2004 study that was done.
Not that it doesn't need to be done, just not right now.
I just want to make sure that that was in the minutes at this point in time. So,
We have to make sure that we have the right questions also, because, we shouldn't be going 5, 6, 7, 8 months and with the same information. So we have to make sure we're asking the right questions so we get the right answer back.
Well, and there's also a piece of the discussion is a philosophical discussion, like we've talked before. Do you want to be ahead of the curve, or do you want to wait until it's a crisis mode and start doing it? And I think, the position Superintendent of Public Works was taking is that this is something that's been talked about from the design engineers for a number of years. We know it's going to eventually occur, so his theory was to start early and start putting money away over a longer period of time to not have to finance as much. So we'll be fleshing that out a little more for the 2020 capital improvement plan. So you'll have more documentation to take a look at and helping make your decision either to go, no go, or postpone. But again, it's not a critical need at the moment. We don't have mass failures. Septic systems don't all go at the same time. Sometimes, some last 20 years, some last 30, depending on soil conditions and groundwater and a variety of other things. But it is an important project, so you'll be seeing it come back.
Pete?
Now, I want to make sure that we do enough thinking in that, planning ahead of time, because it don't take much. You look around our Marquette County, and you can see what's going on up there, but the people did not plan ahead of time. You end up with a 60% increase and stuff like that. So we have to plan ahead. We have to plan ahead for sewer, water, and stuff like that, because you never know. An article in the paper tonight about the city having a problem. They're rethinking that. How long is their plant's going to last? you know, should we be thinking about going for an alternate water supply, stuff like that. You know, Nagani has 4 wells up there, sitting up there, that they're not using as much as they should be. And we're very close to it, so maybe, you know, in the future, look at that. So, that's one of my concerns. I don't want to get back into the, you know, behind the 8 ball again. You know, we haven't been in the future, in the past, we haven't been because of forward thinking and that, so I think we have to just keep that in mind.
Anything else? We have the motion on the floor. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 19 budget. We've had a lot of time to talk about this. I think our meetings, work sessions worked pretty well. Got a lot of good questions answered. Pretty much the same budget as last year, because things haven't changed that much, especially in the funding side. Any preface for this one, Randy? Anything you want to add?
Well, just to build on what Shana had mentioned at our public comment, you know, we did have an ongoing, fairly lengthy ongoing discussion with regarding the renewal of our health insurance or the potential changes to our health insurance. There is no such thing as a perfect plan, and I think that was pretty well demonstrated with our 2 groups. There was a fairly wide disparity between what the groups were interested in and wanted. We did have the ability to have vast representative come and meet with the groups jointly and individually, and ultimately within the last week, basically, we've come to a resolution where essentially what's occurring is our current health insurance plan, the base plan, is being renewed, and we are replacing, as you'll recall, we had 2 plans. We had a base plan, and then we had an additional plan that was an option. That additional plan is being replaced with a gap plan. And that combination of those 2 things brought both of the groups together to be able to agree. We don't have the exact cost of the project as yet, but it is going to be substantially less than what I had placed in the budget for health insurance. So it's a very positive move. I appreciate, you know, all the work that the staff did in terms of weighing the options and the changes to the potential health insurance. And I think we came up with a good package that's going to save a little bit of money in the health insurance area as well. So.
And it's still covering what they really need, which is best.
Well, and it provides an option. So I think it provides a pretty good option. The gap plan for the 1 unit works better. The base plan for the other unit works better. So we're actually doing a renewal with a replacement of the second option. I don't know, is there anything else you might want to add, Shana?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Good.
Well, I'll move to accept the 2019 budget as presented.
Second.
Ernie?
What you're saying as far as hospitalization is pretty well staying the same. There's no less coverage. The coverage is pretty much the same.
The coverage actually has improved slightly, and the cost by matching with the gap actually went down slightly. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We'll have better figures before the end of the year in terms of what the actual figures are. Basically, if you'll recall, we're now 1 unit is going to be based on individual age. The other unit has a composite rate. So our accountant is in the process right now of working with VAST to map those changes to come up with an actual percentage change, dollar change. But it will be within what we have budgeted.
Better than last year.
Yes. And we did look at a number of options. We looked at going with the Western Michigan Health Plan. One of the drawbacks with that plan, although it was a comparable plan, but one of the major drawbacks was it requires a 3-year contract. So we were nervous about the 2nd and 3rd year that were not guaranteed. So we'll be looking at health insurance again for 2020. We do have in both bargaining agreements, we do have the provision that it can be opened each year to look at the health insurance if either side wishes to open it. So I guess that's all that I had to add on the budget. I appreciate the work that the board did. I think the 2019 budget, although it's essentially a mirror image, it does provide some additional benefit to the township from the standpoint of coverage and from the standpoint of revenue. We were fortunate that the residents agreed with both of our millage requests to assist with the funding of the Sheriff's Department and to provide a revenue source that can carry year to year for replacement of fire apparatus. So I appreciate that very much from the residents, and I think that goes a long way to relieving some concern with the aging equipment that we have. Although it's still in very good condition, maintenance is becoming an issue, costly issue. So we're not in need at the moment to replace, but we're hoping over the next 3 to 5 years that we can put enough money aside that we will not have to finance a piece of equipment. Substantial savings with not financing.
Kind of putting in a savings account like you would if you weren't to buy a car or something, you know. More questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider 2019 tax levies.
And again, this is something you've seen before. It is the anticipated taxes that will be levied by the township. The ad that was in the paper is in your packet, and that breaks out quite clearly what the changes are 2017, 18, and 19 for those 3 budget years, and what the millage is that we'll be levying, and what the anticipated revenue from those levies will be.
I'll move to accept the 2019 tax levy as presented.
Support.
Comments, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad it worked out.
Enough hours in it.
They had a lot of meetings, and Tom was a lot of help. So it worked out good. Saw Jason, I don't know if he wanted to comment. We'll keep going in case he comes back. Consider 2019 budget resolution and Township General Appropriations Act.
This is a document that you see every year, and it is basically the management document for the budget for 2019. It is a line-by-line layout of how the budget is constructed and performs. It establishes authorities for administrative and fiscal officers, and it establishes abilities with regard to budget modifications and amendments with staff and with the board. It's a fairly lengthy document. Typically, the base language does not change from year to year. What does change is the dollar amounts based on revenue and expenditure projections. And I leave it now to the clerk.
I am not going to read it because it's in the packet. It's a lengthy document. And like the manager says, it does not really change year to year, just the numbers, amounts change. But I will make a motion to approve the Appropriation Act as presented, and it's a roll call vote.
Second. Okay. Dan Gunn.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Says the Township Supervisor declared the motion carried and the resolution duly adopted on the 4th day of December 2018. The end. Okay, consider adoption of 2019 fee schedule.
This is the last document that you adopt as part of your budget process, and this is establishing the fees for 2019. There were several increases, primarily in the water side with regard to the connection fees and some other minor administrative fees, copying fees, fire inspection fees slightly increased. They are identified in the bold column.
Any questions for the
A new
man?
one under inspection.
We've looked at this quite a bit.
I'll move to accept the 2019 fee schedule as presented.
Support.
The comments I'm going to make is, I'd just like to thank the board for going through. This is the end of basically the budget process, and I'd like to let the residents know we had about 4, 5, 6 long meetings, well, 2 hours each about this, and talked about the budget, and I think we did pretty well for our township. I think I did the calculation, an average resident that uses 4,000 gallons of water. There's going to be no increase on the wastewater side, which is positive. No increase in garbage. Water's going up 10 cents per 1,000 gallons, so that's minimal. And the base fee's going up $1, so it's like a $16 increase for the whole year. So I think that's pretty commendable when communities around us are double-digit increases. So we're doing the best we can for the residents and still trying to due diligence on our infrastructure, and our asset management programs that will be coming are going to really help our infrastructure moving forward, about managing them and making sure our rate structures are correct for what we're doing. So that's my, and having the correct money available to keep the systems operating.
I'm kind of unique because I'm also a taxpayer as well as a business owner in the township, which is, there aren't very many, but this is gonna cost me about $200 a month. So it's a lot more, and, you know, we use water, obviously. So that just kind of gives you the idea of both sides. I can't imagine some of the bigger hotel restaurant setups, what they'd be paying, but it's still gonna be significant.
Yeah, your gallon rate increase won't be much, but it's the base fee, yeah.
A little bit. But, you know, my average is 80, 90,000 gallons a month, so that's a little different. I had some 140, 150,000 gallon months. Okay,
Shower.
yeah,
You're keeping us solvent, that's all.
that's right. I want to give back to the community, right?
We had a pool and laundry.
Yeah, we drain it, fill it up, drain it, fill it up. No, I can't
That's
do
why
that.
she looks always clean and nice.
That's
That's
right.
right.
I smell good anyway. We just need to vote, right? Too much distraction.
all-
Yeah, all fluttered off. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, committee updates. Dave, got anything?
A couple quick ones. First, the Planning Commission, there was no meeting since the last board meeting, so there's nothing to report on that. Our next scheduled Planning Commission meeting is December the 12th. From the Road Committee, we did finish it tonight just prior to this meeting, and normally that would wait until next week, except the board did direct the Road Committee to make a recommendation one way or the other on the speed study question for County Road 492. And the committee did come up with a consensus as follows. Inasmuch as the speed limit changes from 45 to 55 at the Iron Ore Heritage Trail going westbound, and while a speed study may not necessarily result in a lowering of the speed limit, but most certainly would not increase the speed limit beyond the current 55, concern was expressed with respect to the numerous curves and their proximity to an increasing volume of residential traffic entering and exiting County Road 492. Therefore, it is a recommendation of the committee that the board move forward and request the speed study from Marquette County Road Commission. That was the recommendation coming out of tonight's meeting from the Road Committee. The Rec Committee, not a lot going on. We're still working on the goals and objectives for the rec plan, which is due to be done by the first part of February. And rather than read through all those, the goals and objectives draft is in the board packet tonight in the draft minutes from the rec committee. I think it's page 26 and 28 of your packet. So if you're really interested in perusing through those, you could read it there rather than me read them. It's about 3 pages worth. But that's it for the committee reports, unless anybody's got some questions.
Thoughts on the speed study? We have a recommendation, unless you want it in writing.
Well, I think that'd be more appropriate to be on the next agenda.
Sounds good.
Just didn't want you to think I would just slacking off there.
See, that's the nice part about us having our committees. That's just, this is the way it works. It's like a well-oiled machine. We make a we make a request, you make a recommendation, we deal with it. It's cool. Okay, I'll put it on the next agenda.
I might add for the road committee, we did get a consensus on the recommended maintenance projects for bid for next year, and that'll go to the planning commission on the 12th and to the board the meeting after that. So you should have, yeah, you should have it to that by the end of this
By the 18th?
December. Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Pete, anything you want to add? You're on some of these committees too.
No, he's a smooth talker.
That's fine. But you have,
No, there is, but that's the reason, what you said about the committees, you know, that's really the whole mechanism of a committee. We discuss different things and come up with a consensus and, you know.
So when the road committee was considering the speed study on 492, were you, in terms of area, were you looking from essentially the Heritage Trail to
West of-
just past of Chapel Ridge?
We were looking at it from where it changes to 55, which is just beyond the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, until around the corner. It would be about Oak Hill Drive,
Go past there because.
where
the
it goes
intersection-
into the straightaway going westbound.
Okay, so Chapel Ridge then would be outside of that, that's on the straightaway, so it
Yeah,
would be
but that's on the
outside of there.
straightaway, that's
Okay,
right.
so the curve area,
Yeah.
okay.
That could be part of the written request.
I was gonna say,
Mhm.
yeah, even a map would be good for the public, so we can put it in the packet.
Map.
Yeah, you can do that. We've got lots of,
This will be at the planning commission, so that's probably where the recommendation will come out of for the next meeting, is from the planning commission.
Jason knows maps.
Yeah.
Because there is a short distance as you come off of Grove Street there, right in that curve, so.
Between there and
They
Bishop
don't all
Woods.
drive like me.
Okay. Recreation Committee appointments. We have a gentleman who would like to be involved. He actually wanted 3 or 4 committees. When I explained to him what all of them do and how they meet and how they function, he said, well, let's try one first, because he's still going to school. So Connor would appreciate being appointed to the Recreation Committee if you would so agree.
Are you making a recommendation?
Yes.
I support your recommendation.
Okay.
So you're basically
I
making
can
the
make the motion, yeah. Sometimes we do it both ways, that's
So
fine.
it's Connor Loftus,
Yes,
and
for
what
recreation.
will be his term?
I can tell you that. I didn't put it in my notes.
Is it a new term, or is it a existing?
It's actually a slot that was open. Maybe I did stick it in
Well, we don't have to tonight, you can just give to the appropriate term. Because I know you're gonna make a master list anyway, and we're gonna have it as a memo in the
Yep.
packet for approval.
It's right underneath here. Recreation, Connor Hill, it's term land 12/31/19. He's the first of a correction on a staggered term. Actually, he's the second.
It's 1-year term.
Yes, yep, and I already talked to him about that. He'd actually would like to get involved with Board of Review and DDA and stuff, so at some of these, we've got quite a few that are renewing next year, so I think some of these folks will like to switch around. That's how we did with the planning and zoning. A couple of them switched. So yes, it'd be 12/31/19.
So either next meeting or the meeting after, the first meeting of the new year, we'll have a list of the appropriate terms for each committee.
Do you want all of them?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I've been keeping on.
And then that'll be in the board packet, so we
Okay.
have a record.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, we've tried to narrow these down. If you remember, we found out that when some folks were replacing members who were leaving, inadvertently, those dates got picked up wrong. Like, we had March, Mickey Truscott came on the Board of Review March of 18, and I marked that so that we would know that she's completing the term 12/19. And that's what happened in past years, that 3/16/18 date got picked up, and that's how some of these dates got mixed up. But they're all supposed to end 12/31 of whatever the year is, and some of them didn't get staggered, so Roger made some suggestions, and we've got that figured out. Okay, did we vote? We didn't.
Not yet. The motion's on the table. though.
Yes. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Welcome, Connor. I have 2 spots open, if anybody's interested. One is a 2-year term on the Events Committee. We had one lady retire because she left the township, and we have an open slot on the Road Committee, which is a 3-year term. So if anybody's interested in participating, those boards don't meet a whole lot. They're not, as regimented as the township board. Road committee meets once a month. So if you'd like to get involved, it's a good way to start. And as openings next year, we're gonna have a lot of openings on different committees if you'd like to switch around. Now we're down to public comment again. Boy, that was quick. Any public wishing to comment? Say hi, goodbye? Okay. Announcements. Any announcements anybody wants to share? Randy?
Yeah, I did send out to the board and the staff meeting calendar for next year, and that's under review right now. I just got to ask the board, would you like to keep your meetings at 6:30, or would you like them at 7? 6:30? Okay. In the other committees, if they want to change their meeting times, let me know.
I checked all those, and everything seemed to line up. They line up with the board meeting, which makes it handy, but
Okay.
I just went through and checked to make sure they were still lined up, so it should be good. I can run them by, but
Okay, because next week, bring it to the planning commission and check their calendar, make sure it's fine, and then on the December 20th meeting, we'll approve it for next year. So if anyone has any issues with that, email myself and I'll change the calendar. So we'll have it for the next agenda.
Dave and Pete, had you talked at all about your committee's meeting, maybe right before the planning commission meeting, rather than before ours? Did you ever think
we
about that?
hadn't, but
Doesn't matter to me, but I noticed it in an MTA brochure, flyer or something.
yeah,
Some
just
recommendation.
the way it's set up is it meets before, road committees before the first meeting of the month and the recs before the second meeting of the month. That actually works out pretty good, so
Would prefer that? Okay, just thought I'd mention it.
nobody's complained about it anyway.
Because that way you can bring it right to the planning, is, I'm sure, with their idea, and then the next meeting is the board if they were gonna bring something timely.
Yeah, but it really doesn't work out that smooth because you can't bring something right to the planning commission because it'd be the same problem as taking that speed study recommendation. It's not written down because we just got done with the meeting.
Gives you an extra week, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought I'd mention it.
Well, plus the planning is the following week after each of these meetings.
Yeah.
So if we want to bring anything up for the roads, we just bring it up in the next week, and for recreation, we just bring it up to the next week.
For example, the road committee now has a week to get, well, we got until the end of this week to get those 2 recommendations in to the planning commission so it can be in their packet, which if it was right before, we'd miss it by 2 weeks instead of just a week.
You'd have to prepare 2 weeks.
Actually, it'd be
advance.
3 weeks.
Okay, just thought I'd mention it.
And a quick comment, the first board meeting of 2019 will be on a Wednesday because Tuesday is New Year's Day.
Yes, Ernie.
Bring up my standard thing. at
Nope,
this time
never
of year.
mind, never mind. I already got my bill.
No taxes. No, we're not going to discuss
It's
them.
all right, have received your tax bills this week. If not, you better do some research to make sure. If you have escrow account hopefully that went to them. If not, if it goes to you, better send it to your, whatever financial institution you have, so that they can pay the bill and that.
I like the new system now because my daughter got the tax bill, so I thought that was good. It was not anything that the township did, it's county, but, yeah. I said, well, you can pay it, well, thanks.
Did she like it?
Yeah.
Shock, eh? Any other announcements from anybody? Okay, managers report.
Well, you do have a printed report in your packet. Pretty straightforward. I just want to make a couple of comments. So we did have our annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony last well, a week and 2 weeks ago now, basically, on the 27th of November. Had a great time. Naturally, you know, as usual, the weather was pretty good until just before, and then the wind kicked up, and it got pretty chilly out there. But still had a good time. I think all the folks that were there had a good time. We had a lot of entertainment. We had carols being sung by the cast from the musical presentation Elf Jr. We had the Nagani Mill Chorus. We had Northern Lights a cappella group was singing carols. We even had Mr. UP do a solo. So you know, it was a good time. Once we got Santa Claus delivered, we had, you know, a little bit. He had a little hard time lighting the tree. It took him 3 tries, but he got it lit. You know, and then we all moved inside the Westwood Mall, and have to thank Ellen and her staff for the assist that they gave us in there. We did something a little different this year, rather than having all of the lineup to see Santa Claus congested with food tables and everything else that we did in the main corridor the last couple of years. We broke off a seating area near the Yonkers entrance, which is where Super One's set up, basically, and they were cooking brats and hot dogs for everybody. And then on the opposite side, in the Coles entrance, we had the dance troupe basically doing their thing in there. You know, so it was a little bit separated out. That made a lot more room in the main corridor, and the visitation with Santa Claus went really smoothly in that with regard to that. But again, you know, Super One stepped up. They provided the cookies, they provided the juice, they provided the hot dogs and brats, and but I'll tell you, anybody who went away hungry, that was their own fault. It was really well attended, and I think everybody had a great time. Just wanted to do a couple of special thank yous to folks that usually don't get noticed. Todd Nordyke and his crew did a terrific job with regard to orchestrating the entertainment and utilizing his I guess you call it stage trailer. But you know, and he gets into it. He has a good time doing it as well. You know, and we had Rusty Bowers and his folks with the Grinch and all of those activities with the Grinch. The Sheriff's Department for controlling the Grinch while it was there. I did make an appearance. Just you know, the fire department, Captain Cochran was escorting Santa Claus around, making sure he got there okay and got back to the sleigh to take off later. As far as I know, he made it to all the places he needed to be, so I haven't heard any complaints from that. Again, Applebee's and Delta Dental, you know, we utilized the lot between there in the weekends for, again, donating the tree this year. So I think we had a great time. It was a good deal. Folks that missed a good time. So anything else? Just mentioning the seasonal closures. We only have one remaining, and that's New Year's Day. We're closed on New Year's Day. We are open New Year's Eve, and we're open the day after New Year's. So only New Year's Day will be closed. If anybody needs service over New Year's Day, call the office 228-6220 and follow the prompts for the call-out staff. We do have staff assigned to be on call that day to deal with any issues that may come up. So the last thing I wanted to mention is we are still waiting for resolution or from information from the Board of Light and Power with regard to the generators. I've had some informal conversations with board members with regard to where they are in the process. They do have several options that they're looking at, and obviously as a cost-benefit issue, they're looking to try and resolve the noise and vibration issues without having to pass large increases along to the residents. So you know, it's still ongoing. We still don't have a resolution, but they are still working on it. I guess that's pretty much all I can say about it at this time.
Good update, though, so everybody knows that they haven't forgotten.
No, we have not forgotten, and we are still receiving contacts from residents in the general area with regard to continuing issue and a couple of new issues as well. And as we receive those, we're passing those along to BLP.
One additional person honored credit union.
Oh, I forgot on a credit union.
Oh, and
They
big
had the
Popcorn
popcorn there
folks.
right in the center. And
big coffee.
really, the girls made it
Yep.
a nice time inside because it worked out very good for them.
It did.
And I can't say enough for Ellen.
Ellen. There you go. You
I
got
always
it.
say that wrong. Her crew really did a great job in getting things we needed and cleaning up after, and, it was great. I would like to see some kind of comments from the people who came. It'd be nice to know what they think of how it went and stuff like that, because we can, not you.
Well, it helps the community events committee. We get so involved in it. I mean, and it's busy. It's a busy time. There's only 5 of us basically. So it's a busy time that night getting things done. We really don't have much of a chance to sit back and just observe. So comments are welcome, certainly. I did want to mention Bigby Coffee as well. Bigby Coffee has always supported us, and they were supporting us on this. I'm not sure what happened. We had a little bit of a snafu there, but Bigby every year so far up until this year has been an active participant, and we're committed for this year as well. But for whatever reason, we're unable to be present.
And I just also want to say that, of all the committee that you work together with, and your manager was out there too. He was always there. He's always there, trying to help and do things. And so, but he's always reporting the thing, but he never says his own name. So I just thought, thank him for doing that.
Well, remember, we have an events slot open, so if somebody wants to join that committee, we can always use another set of hands. There's 3 events?
Yeah.
So it's not a,
3 majors, and then we're fielding suggestions. We had a suggestion come in today that we possibly think about a snowshoe softball tournament this winter. So it's a unique idea. Might be fun.
Better than pickleball, buddy.
go ahead, Dave.
I did, when I was there for the tree lighting and in the mall, and you're sitting at those tables, there was a number of comments made about how nice that was set up in there so you could go in and sit down and have something to eat. And there was a number of comments from the residents about how nice and comfortable that was.
Because otherwise you just stand there and eat your cookies and stuff, and this way we had no food, and kids were joining. Oh,
And
they had the
some groups
drawing
actually come in there with moms and dads and 4 or 5 kids, and they actually had dinner there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, sure.
and the little kids could get down and draw.
Yep.
Alan had a little table down there with pictures and crayons.
Yeah, I got a number of comments about how nice that was set up.
Super One always does a nice job. They bring the hot dogs, the brats, they brought potato chips, and they had pop, and, it's...
At no charge.
Yeah, no, it was
There's no
donated.
charge
It was
for
a
it.
donation. It was free.
Any questions for the manager, Ernie?
Do we do any announcement of these individuals or firms that have done it so the whole community knows it?
They are listed on our posters that we put out. We list all the benefactors and all of the contributors and the participants. We list it on the poster, and we've got it up on our website as well. Mhm.
Is it possible to do like a thank you in the Mining Journal, or?
We do individual cards to all of them, thank you cards from the Community Events Committee, and we generally put a little ad in the newspaper as well. Yeah, we have the 3 major events. This is the last one in the year. We have the first one in the spring is the car show, and then we have the Community Events Day in August at Lions Field, and then the Christmas tree lighting are our 3 base programs. But you'll recall last year we had a boot hockey tournament. We had 2 boot hockey tournaments actually last year. We had the Northern Michigan University hockey team came out and did a scrimmage on our ice rink. So we have several events that we just kind of mix in over the course of the year as well. And maybe snowshoe softball this winter. You never know.
One of the nice things also is that the businesses who are in the group there, like Applebee's and Aspen and stuff, we have good cooperation from them. I mean, because we tie up the whole parking lot. you know. But then never heard anyone say anything in a negative, so, you know, it's kind of nice with cooperation between the business and the township and the event and that, so.
So far, we really can't control the weather. That's a comment that we always get.
Yes, Dave?
Yeah, just one last comment. Sometimes, you know, you get all this involved in this and wonder if it's really all worth all the work that you put into it. And I just happened to be walking outside the mall with my 8-year-old when the sheriff's department pulled up and was hauling the Grinch out of the back seat, all wrapped up and handcuffed, and just the look on her face. The whole thing was worth it right there.
Cool. Any other questions for the manager? Okay. Review of motions, Mr. Randy.
Well, they're kind of lengthy tonight. It was a quick meeting, but a lot of motions. First motion was consent agenda as presented. Second motion was consent, or the regular agenda as presented. Approved both of them. The third motion was to approve the 41 underpass resolution. That was approved and carried, and the supervisor will sign.
That's MDOT.
And that's
I think the
MDOT.
clerk signs that one.
I'll sign, the clerk will do that one. And the fourth motion was the roundabout contract, and the supervisor will sign that one. Fifth motion was the CIP approval for the water and wastewater projects that the board specified. And the sixth motion was the CIP items that were not approved by the board, and that will be identified in the minutes. The seventh motion was to approve the 2019 budget. The eighth motion was to approve the 2019 tax levies. The ninth motion was to approve the 2019 budget resolution and Township General Appropriation Act. The 10th motion was to approve the fee schedule, 2019 fee schedule. 11th motion was to approve Mr. Loftus to the Recreation Committee. And I believe that's it.
Yeah, lots of business. People forget, that's what we're here to do, is conduct business for the township. It's just nice that they can watch and participate. So the speed study will be on the next agenda for the 18th. Any other things that anybody, just let me know or call Randy or something if there's something else that comes up.
Lynn?
Sure. Go ahead.
I did have a couple requests for agenda items at the start of the year. I sent a copy of them to the clerk, so he's got them for his files. But as agenda items for January 1st, I would request that the board address the following items. And first, by board action or motion, establish definitions as well as policies for the use of contingency funds, operational reserves, and emergency reserves. While some of these definitions and policies may seem straightforward, a board-approved policy or procedure would remove any doubt for this as well as future boards. The second is, by board action or motion, establish policies and guidelines governing the use of contingency funds, operational and emergency reserves. And the third was, by board action or motion, designate funds required to maintain contingency funds, operational emergency reserves, and establish funding levels of each designated fund by percentage of approved budget amounts. We talked about this during the budget. In my opinion, it would be good to get it out front and on the table so we've got it done. We don't have to deal with it next budget.
Okay, then maybe what we'd want to do, though, is set up a work session to plan that. We could do that on the 2nd.
I think the first thing we need to do is request that the manager provide some recommendations.
Yeah, but I mean,
Definitions?
not
Yeah.
to necessarily do this on the,
Definitions and amounts. No, I'm not suggesting that it's an agenda item for the 2nd. I'm just saying it should be.
I thought that's what you said. Okay.
Just, it's so that we take a look at them the first of the year.
I'll try to have it in the next packet so you can think about it for January, is put the spreadsheet together of our calendar. We've already pretty much covered how we do policy governance this year, So some of that stuff we may be able to remove, because we've pretty much reviewed all the policies. And then we can plug these 3 items into that process of policy governance. And we can do it any time of the year you want, but I'd like you to look at the calendar, see what it's recommended that we do. And if there's stuff you want to add or subtract, then just let me know. And it's easier to schedule that way. And if there's somebody that remember, we can have people come in and talk to us about stuff too. So if there's somebody you know that could give us some kind of report on something that we're doing, whether it's like the BLP or, the sheriff, we talked about having the sheriff in here, and if you think of somebody like that, let me know. Randy?
I'm thinking that what Dave is requesting is probably, there are gonna be new policies, because I think that's where they need to rest, because going forward, then they'll always be there.
Yeah, that's
You don't have to
what
address them year to year, they'll be.
Right,
in the
and I
policy.
guess what I was thinking about is the sooner they get on the agenda, the sooner the board can make a motion to have the manager put the information together, make recommendations, and then we can consider them after that.
Randy?
I would suggest a good resource for that would be our auditor. In terms of coming up with a definition that fits, the township chart of accounts, in terms of defining those 3 in a concise way that will be reflected in our audits.
And the percentage is a big thing we talked about too, is how do we know how much to set
Yeah.
aside?
Yeah, that
That's a
might be a good
reasonable-
resource.
Well, we
Okay.
don't have one of those, each one of those funds for every fund that we have in the budget. It's just some of them we do and some of them we
Right.
don't. There's more out there that have contingency allowances in the budget than there are emergency and operational reserves. So it's just a matter of identifying the funds, and that's where it all goes back to the manager to make a recommendation, because he's got resources where he knows which one of those should have that
And we
that
talked
amount.
about defining,
Mhm.
They're primarily the enterprise funds,
Yeah, what are the
primarily in the
emergency
fire
funds?
department. Fire department doesn't really have a contingency per se, because they don't carry funds from year to year. But general fund we have miscellaneous, so, we need to standardize the terminology.
just makes it easier for the next board coming in too. And they know they have a benchmark.
Do we have all the, I wanted to ask ahead of time, but do we have all the departments back up, like a 3 month, 4 month, are they all, I forgot to.
The general fund covers that
Yeah,
as
I mean-
as an overall.
Right.
Because they're all departments of the general fund. So the general fund, the 4-month general fund operating reserve basically covers all of those general fund departments.
Okay, any other items for the agenda? Okay. Board member comment? Anybody want to share anything? Prayers for trustee Marks, he's battling some health issues. So,
Do we know if John's back in town or not?
No, the last email we got from Randy, he was still out of town.
yeah, last time I called, it just rang and rang and rang, their machine isn't even set up.
No,
Or it's full. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll watch this and know that we're thinking about him.
well, I wish him well, and I hope everything goes well, and, like I emailed his daughter, I told her to tell John to hurry up, and, because we got a pickleball coming up.
He's
And I
just
don't want
figuring-
no bad eyes for any excuses.
He just figures snow, he's not gonna rush. Any other comments? Yes, Dave?
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm glad the budget is over,
Ta-da.
and I would certainly hope we'd get started at it way earlier next year and get those CIP requests dealt with by mid-year, so that we have the ones approved that we're gonna look at, so that I don't think there's any reason this has to go on as long as it goes on. And the biggest holdup is the CIP request.
Well, and identifying, like Pete said, what are our questions? I tell my staff that. If I'm not giving you the right answer, we need to ask a different question. How can I reformulate this? That's a big part of it. Okay. One more motion?
Closed session.
Closed session.
We gotta have a motion.
I thought you wanted the good motion.
Oh, no, sorry. Nope, I was looking at
He's
closed
working on the
session.
next.
You're not anxious, are you? This is like, look at that.
You had a
Barely over
second,
an
too,
hour.
anyway.
Somebody want to make it?
Make a motion, we
I'll
move into
second.
closed session.
Okay, second? Did we get the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
A motion is approved, and we are in closed session at 7:41 PM.
Okay.
I'm just curious, if I vote no on that,